The Justice Department is in damage control after a DOJ official was secretly recorded on a hidden camera talking about the Epstein files. It's been going viral online, and in that video, one of the department's deputy chiefs says the files will be heavily redacted to remove all Republicans' names. He also suggests the DOJ is offering Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, something to keep her mouth shut.
The video was posted by the founder of Project Veritas. That is a controversial far-right group known for its undercover camera stings of people in the media and federal government. The DOJ is now pushing back hard on the video and the claims that were made by that official.
Hey folks, welcome back. Adam is here. So what just happened, guys? Trump campaigned on releasing the Epstein files, promised transparency, said he'd expose the elites. But while America was waiting, his own DOJ was quietly doing the opposite, removing pages from the public database, scrubbing documents, burying evidence. And according to NPR's investigation, the specific pages they chose to hide contained detailed allegations of sexual misconduct against Donald Trump himself.
A new NPR investigation reveals the Justice Department withheld portions of the Jeffrey Epstein files that contain allegations involving President Trump, including material tied to claims that Mr. Trump sexually abused a minor and that some pages mentioning him were removed from the public record. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee called that out today, saying the DOJ's withholding of information could amount to a crime.
Let that sink in for a moment. The Department of Justice, operating under the authority and the direction of the Trump administration, made a conscious, calculated decision to reach into the public record and pull out pages that contained accusations against the sitting president. They did not redact names to protect victims. They did not seal documents for national security. They hid pages because those pages contained information that would damage Donald Trump. This is the definition of a cover-up.
The House Oversight Committee have launched an investigation following reports the Justice Department withheld some Epstein files related to allegations President Trump sexually abused a minor. The New York Times is reporting the FBI memos removed from public view were summaries of interviews about claims made by a woman that she had been sexually and physically assaulted by President Trump decades earlier when she was 13. The woman came forward in 2019 after Epstein's arrest. President Trump has denied wrongdoing in connection with Jeffrey Epstein.
This is the abuse of the machinery of government to protect one man from the consequences of his own alleged actions. And if you are not absolutely furious about this, regardless of your political affiliation, then you are not paying attention to the depth of accountability in this country. This is the kind of scandal that, in any other era of American history, would have dominated the headlines for months. It would have triggered immediate congressional subpoenas. It would have led to resignations and, quite possibly, criminal obstruction of justice charges.
Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous. And that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files.
I'm reclaiming my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please stop the clock.
Please
stop the clock.
The legislation. This is
ridiculous.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath.
But because we live in the chaos of the current political climate, the story has been fighting for oxygen. Well, today, we are giving it all the oxygen it needs. We are going to walk through every single documented piece of this implosion, from the hidden pages to the Commerce Secretary who is now on the chopping block, to the complete and utter destruction of Trump's political brand of transparency.
Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness.
Let's begin with the core of the explosion, because the foundation of this entire nightmare for the administration rests on the credibility of the reporting that exposed it. This was not a leak from a disgruntled former employee with an axe to grind. This was an investigation conducted by NPR, one of the most respected and rigorous journalistic institutions in the nation. NPR's reporters dug into the public database systems, they cross-referenced the available documents, and they discovered a gaping hole where the truth used to be. They found that pages from the Epstein investigation files had been removed. They were there, and then they were gone.
The Justice Department has published some additional Epstein files related to allegations that President Trump sexually abused a minor. That's after an NPR investigation found dozens of pages were withheld. NPR's Stephen Fowler reports.
DOJ uploaded more than 1,000 new pages of Epstein files Thursday evening. They include 18 pages related to claims of sexual abuse by President Trump 4 decades ago that were previously withheld. After NPR reported on those missing files, the Justice Department said it was looking to see if that was a mistake. There are still 37 pages of records relating to the allegation missing, also missing any sort of context as to how credible investigators found the claims, or why it was included in a Justice Department slideshow last fall.
And when NPR started asking very pointed questions about why those specific pages had vanished into the ether, the answer that came back was nothing short of a smoking gun. The missing pages contained allegations from accusers who claimed that Donald Trump engaged in sexual misconduct. These are not anonymous Twitter rumors. These are not vague insinuations. These are documented pages from an active, high-profile federal investigation into a child sex trafficking ring, and those pages pointed a finger directly at the Oval Office. The DOJ, under the leadership appointed by Trump, made the choice to hide that information from you. They made the choice to keep the American people in the dark. Think about the level of coordination and the level of audacity required to pull this off. Someone in the chain of command had to identify the pages. Someone had to give the order to remove them. Someone had to physically alter the public-facing database. This was not a clerical error. This was a surgical strike on transparency. And the reason this is causing sheer, unadulterated panic inside the West Wing and the Justice Department is because it exposes the fundamental lie at the heart of Trump's entire political identity. Trump sold himself to the American voter as the ultimate outsider, the enemy of the establishment, the one man who was too rich to be bought and too tough to be scared. He promised that under his watch, the era of government secrecy and backroom deals was over. He specifically weaponized the Epstein case, dangling the prospect of the Epstein list in front of the public like a carrot, knowing full well that a huge portion of the country, including his own base, desperately wants to know which powerful figures were involved in that horrific enterprise. And now we find out that when it came time to actually deliver on that promise, the only thing his administration delivered was a digital eraser aimed at protecting Trump himself. This is the kind of hypocrisy that doesn't just sting. It severs the trust between a leader and his followers. The American people can tolerate a lot of things. They can tolerate policy disagreements. They can tolerate messy personal lives. But the one thing that voters across the ideological spectrum cannot stomach is the feeling that they were played for fools. They were told the files would be released to expose the corrupt elite, but the only file that got special treatment was the one that threatened to expose the man making the promise. This is the crack in the dam that allows all the other water to rush through. It validates every single accusation that Trump only cares about his own hide and that his administration is nothing more than a personal protection racket masquerading as a government. And speaking of that personal protection racket, let's talk about the immediate collateral damage that is piling up and causing even more headaches for a White House that is already drowning in legal and political trouble. The name Howard Lutnik is now being whispered in the halls of Congress with a mix of disgust and urgent concern. For those who don't follow the inner workings of the cabinet, Howard Lutnik is Trump's hand-picked Secretary of Commerce. This is a man entrusted with overseeing the economic engine of the United States, a position of immense power and influence. But according to the information that is bubbling up from the very Epstein files that the DOJ tried to suppress, Howard Lutnik's name is allegedly linked to the Epstein network. We are not talking about a distant acquaintance or a one-time photo op at a charity gala. The reporting and the pressure from watchdog groups indicate that his connections run deep enough to warrant his inclusion in the investigative documents related to Epstein's sprawling web of influence and exploitation. Now put yourself in the shoes of a member of Congress for a moment. You have just learned that the Department of Justice has been actively concealing evidence related to a sex trafficking ring. You have also learned that the Secretary of Commerce, a man who sits in the President's cabinet and represents the United States on the global economic stage, is allegedly named in those very same files. What do? If you have any shred of integrity left, you demand accountability, and that is exactly what is happening. Representative Walkinshaw has stepped forward and is applying maximum pressure on the administration. Walkinshaw is not just sending a strongly worded letter. They are making the public case that Howard Lutnik is compromised. The argument is simple and devastatingly effective. How can the Commerce Secretary effectively negotiate trade deals, meet with foreign leaders, or command the respect of the American business community if there is a cloud of suspicion hanging over his head regarding his relationship with one of the most infamous predators in modern history? The answer is, he cannot. Walkinshaw is demanding that Trump fire Lutnik immediately. And this puts Trump in an absolutely impossible position. If Trump fires Lutnik, he admits that his vetting process was a failure and that there is fire where there is smoke regarding these Epstein connections. It's a public admission that his administration is tainted by the very swamp creatures he promised to eradicate. It's an embarrassment that will dominate the news cycle and lead every broadcast. But if Trump refuses to fire Lutnik, if he circles the wagons and protects his Commerce Secretary despite the mounting evidence and the congressional pressure, then he is effectively broadcasting to the entire world that he does not care about the Epstein connections. He is saying, so what if my cabinet official is linked to that world? I'm keeping him anyway. That is politically toxic waste. It attaches Trump even more firmly to the Epstein scandal. It makes it look like the administration is not just hiding files about Trump, but protecting other people who are implicated in the same cesspool. Either way, Trump loses. Either way, the administration looks like it is running scared from the truth. The Lutnik situation is a time bomb ticking away in the West Wing, and every day that Trump fails to act, the explosion gets larger. And what makes the political calculus here so uniquely damaging is the timing of all of this chaos. We are staring down the barrel of a midterm election cycle. Historically, the party in power faces significant headwinds. Trump's approval ratings are already sitting in dangerous territory, hovering in the high 30s. That is not a position of strength from which to weather a scandal of this magnitude. The Republican Party needs to be talking about the economy. They need to be talking about national security. They need to be talking about anything other than hidden Epstein files and a cabinet secretary allegedly linked to a pedophile network. But because of the actions of Trump's own DOJ, that is all anyone is talking about. Every Republican candidate running for the House or the Senate is now going to be forced to answer a very simple, very uncomfortable question from reporters. Do you support the DOJ hiding allegations against the president? There is no good answer to that question. If they defend the DOJ, they are defending a cover-up. If they condemn the DOJ, they are breaking with Trump and opening a rift in the party. This scandal is an anchor around the neck of every single Republican on the ballot, and it is dragging them down into the murky depths. And let's not forget the sheer arrogance of the administration's response to being caught. When confronted with the NPR investigation, when asked why pages were removed from a public database, the reaction from Trump world was not contrition. It was not a promise to get to the bottom of the clerical error. It was a full-throated attack on the messengers. Trump himself reportedly lashed out, not at the people in his DOJ who orchestrated this disaster, but at the news organizations reporting on it. There have been discussions and public posturing about revoking broadcast licenses and punishing media outlets for having the audacity to ask questions about the Epstein files. Think about the constitutional implications of that. The First Amendment is not a suggestion. The freedom of the press is the bedrock upon which accountability rests. When the President of the United States or his administration suggests that a news organization should be punished financially or legally for reporting the truth about government corruption, we have crossed a line into territory that the Founding Fathers explicitly warned us about. This is authoritarian behavior. This is the reaction of someone who believes they are above the scrutiny of the people they govern. And every time Trump or his allies attack the press for doing their job, they are confirming the very worst fears about this administration's contempt for democratic norms. Let's drill down a little further into what the House of Representatives is doing, because this is where the rubber meets the road in terms of the next phase of this implosion. The House is not sitting idly by while the DOJ plays hide-and-seek with federal evidence. They have issued a formal demand to the Department of Justice, and this demand is staggering in its scope. They are giving the DOJ a very specific window, a deadline of 30 days, to release a trove of documents related to Epstein. We are not talking about a few dozen pages here. We are talking about more than 6 million files. 6 million. That is the scale of the transparency that the legislative branch is demanding. And the administration is now caught in a vice grip. They have to make a choice. Do they comply with the House demand and release the 6 million files? If they do, they lose control of the narrative completely. Those files will be pored over by journalists, by independent researchers, and by the public. Every single name, every single flight log, every single deposition will be scrutinized. If there are more allegations against Trump in those 6 million files, and let's be honest, the odds are not zero, they will come out. If there are more cabinet officials or advisors named, they will be exposed. It would be a political bloodbath. The alternative is for the administration to resist the House demand. They could try to claim executive privilege. They could try to run out the clock. They could try to fight it in the courts. But that strategy is exactly what got them into this mess in the first place. Resisting the release of the Epstein files after promising to release the Epstein files is the definition of a self-own. It would confirm to every single American voter, including the ones in the MAGA base who are already feeling uneasy about this, that the administration has something massive to hide. Every day they delay, every legal motion they file, will be a front-page story about the Trump administration covering up the Epstein files. It is a political death by 1,000 paper cuts. The 30-day deadline is a countdown clock to a moment of reckoning. When that clock hits zero, something has to give. Either the files come out and the truth is laid bare, or the cover-up continues and the political damage becomes absolutely insurmountable. And let's talk about that base, the MAGA base, the people who chant his name at rallies, the people who believe he was sent to shake up the system. This scandal is uniquely tailored to fracture that coalition. For years, a significant portion of Trump's most ardent supporters have been deeply invested in the Epstein conspiracy theories. They believed that the deep state was hiding the Epstein files to protect the Clintons, the Bushes, the Obamas, and the global elite. They cheered when Trump hinted that he would be the one to finally open the vault and show the world the truth. They trusted him. And now, the very first administration that gets caught red-handed actually hiding Epstein files is the Trump administration. And the files they are hiding are not about Bill Clinton or Prince Andrew. They are files that contain allegations against Trump himself. This is a betrayal of epic proportions. It is the moment where the illusion shatters. It turns the narrative from Trump versus the deep state to Trump is the deep state. We are already seeing rumblings of discontent in the corners of the internet where these communities gather. There is confusion. There is anger. There is a growing sense of, wait a minute, we were promised the truth, and now we find out our guy was the one burying it? That erosion of trust at the grassroots level is the kind of thing that doesn't just lose you an election. It destroys a movement. The internal chaos within the administration must be absolutely surreal to witness. Imagine being a staffer in the Commerce Department right now, watching your boss, Howard Lutnik, try to navigate the fallout of being named in the Epstein files. Imagine being a press aide in the White House, waking up every morning knowing that the first question you are going to get is about why the DOJ scrubbed the database. Imagine being a Republican member of Congress, walking through the halls of the Capitol, getting ambushed by reporters asking if you still have confidence in an attorney general who oversaw this cover-up. The pressure is immense. People are reportedly looking for the exits. The rats are sensing that the ship is taking on water, and they are looking for a life raft. This is the environment in which major mistakes get made. This is the environment in which people start pointing fingers at each other. Someone in the DOJ knows who gave the order to remove those pages. Someone in the White House counsel's office knows who approved the strategy to attack the press. And when people are scared, they talk. The possibility of a major leak coming out of the Justice Department or the West Wing detailing exactly how this cover-up was orchestrated is extremely high. This scandal is not static. It is a living, breathing organism that is growing and mutating by the hour. We also need to address the broader implications for the rule of law in this country. We have become so desensitized to scandal that we sometimes forget what normal governance looks like. In a normal, functioning democracy, if the Department of Justice was caught deliberately hiding documents related to a major criminal investigation in order to protect the president, there would be an immediate and bipartisan outcry. The Attorney General would be hauled before Congress. An independent inspector general would launch an investigation into potential obstruction of justice. There would be serious talk of appointing a special counsel to determine if federal laws were broken by the very people sworn to enforce them. The fact that this feels like just another Tuesday in our current news cycle is a symptom of how far the guardrails have been eroded. But the legal reality remains. Obstruction of justice is a crime. Using the machinery of government to conceal information for personal political benefit is an abuse of power. If the House flips in the midterms and the gavels change hands, the investigations into this specific episode will be relentless. Subpoenas will rain down on the DOJ. Depositions will be taken, and the people who thought they could quietly delete a few PDFs and make this go away will find themselves sitting in front of a congressional panel, under oath, with their careers and possibly their freedom on the line. And what about the ultimate question? What is actually in those files? We don't know the full extent of it because the DOJ has been so successful in keeping the lid on. But the fact that they went to such extraordinary lengths to hide them tells us everything we need to know. If the files were exculpatory, they would have been released. If the files showed that Trump had no connection to Epstein, they would have been plastered on the front page of every newspaper by the White House communications team. The energy and risk expended on hiding them is inversely proportional to the innocence they contain. There are accusers in those files. There are women who have come forward with specific detailed accounts of alleged misconduct, and those accounts are being suppressed by the government. This is a monumental injustice. It is a slap in the face to every survivor of sexual assault who was told that if they came forward, the system would protect them. In this case, the system is actively working to silence them to protect the most powerful man in the world. So here is where we stand. The Trump administration is running scared. They are running from the NPR investigation. They are running from the questions about Howard Lutnik. They are running from the House deadline for 6 million files. They are running from their own campaign promises. And they are running from the truth that is contained in the Epstein files. The panic is palpable. It manifests in the erratic attacks on the media. It manifests in the inability to craft a coherent defense for the actions of the DOJ. It manifests in the silence from the Commerce Department about Lutnik's future. This is not the behavior of a confident, transparent government. This is the behavior of an operation that knows it has been caught with its hand in the cookie jar and is desperately trying to figure out how to put the lid back on before the whole kitchen catches fire. But the fire is already spreading. The American people are not stupid. They can see when someone says one thing and does the opposite. They can smell a cover-up from a mile away. The promise to release the Epstein files was a cornerstone of Trump's appeal to a certain segment of the electorate. The revelation that his own DOJ has been hiding those files, specifically the parts that implicate him, is an act of political self-immolation. It destroys the core argument for his candidacy and his leadership. It leaves him exposed and vulnerable. And as the midterms approach, and as the House deadline ticks down, the walls are only going to close in tighter. The administration can panic, they can deflect, they can attack the press, but they cannot make this scandal disappear. The truth is out there, and it is only a matter of time before it breaks through the dam completely. We will be watching every single development in this story. We will be tracking the response from Congress. We will be monitoring the status of Howard Lutnik. And we will be waiting for the moment those 6 million files see the light of day. This is a defining moment for accountability in the United States. The question is not whether the scandal is real. It is real, documented, and damning. The question is whether there will be any consequences for those who abuse their power to hide the truth. Stay tuned, stay angry, and do not let them sweep this under the rug. I'll see you in the next one.